This place where we live inspires all of these stories, so it's much easier to write about the trees, flowers, mushrooms, everything that we look at in the forests here, because we know a lot more about them and because the people here are more close to them. It's out there on your front doorsteps. Can you see the snow over there? So usually when we have an idea for a character, we'll find a location like this where I can do the mock-ups, which involves taking photos of blank cards that we're eventually going to use. And Ali will sit down and she'll be sketching ideas. For example, today we've got this oak tree that we want to capture, so she'll be sketching different ideas around the tree, just getting some inspiration for the character. While I'll be doing other stuff, I might be using books to research, to get some ideas for the story itself, and then together we'll come up with a good representation of the character. So hopefully we'll get something today. Dad, let's get past this bit with the mud. I didn't expect it to be so muddy today. It's quite nice, there's all the purple flowers and stuff. Nymphs, elves, dwarves, all these things are kind of, realistically they're the same thing from like a historical perspective. They're just, they were just spirits, general spirits. And basically they would be attached to any sort of natural body, so there would be like a water nymph for a stream, a lake nymph, and a mountain elf, and a forest elf, and a rock elf, and a leaf elf. They might be attached by old ancient people to all these different things, and they were effectively the same thing. It's only now that we have different words for them. The only distinction for the word is that a dwarf was considered like a dark elf, which suggested they maybe lived underground, which is where the idea of them being miners comes from. But the words are often used interchangeably, so you would either get literally dark elf or dwarf, and sometimes in the same text the word would be used interchangeably, so we can assume there's actually no difference between them, at least in what people used to believe about them. So, okay, I'm going to go carefully. I always forget about that massive hill at the end. It's a killer. One of the first ideas I had for the oak was the world tree, the Norse tree, it's like Yggdrasil, that the world is kind of on three planes, with Asgard at the top, and with Hel down the bottom, Nilfheim, etc., Midgard in the middle world. This was the original idea I had, but it's not an oak tree, it's an ash. Although it is a nice story, and the idea of the ash tree is pretty similar, that idea of like the tree of life. And then there's a big connection with a lot of Indo-European gods in like Slavic cultures, all across Europe really, with connections to the oak tree. A lot of them contain the same root, which would suggest that sky gods in general have this connection with the oak. Plus, mistletoe apparently is a symbol of male fertility, and it grows around the oak, so often they were used with that kind of idea too. So I think it's definitely a good card for a king, but there's no one specific god I think we can really use, so I think we're going to have to be a bit more creative and interpret a range of gods from different pantheons here. The Romans have a lot of legends regarding the oak tree, especially around Rome. Ovid talks about these kind of groves, again always with oak, either sacred to Vesta or Ceres, and different deities, which kind of contradicts the sky god idea, because these so far have all been feminine deities. So oak has been found in druidic sites for the Celts, with no real indication of what it was used for. The Germans, in German mythology, there's the idea of the wood wife, which was a kind of feminine deity of the forest, similar to the wild huntsman, and they were supposed to live inside oak trees. But I'm really hoping to have this one as a king. So in the end, there's a load of little stories, but no real stories where it's kind of worthy of putting the character on a card, especially one of the kings. So we're gonna probably focus on making the tree itself the character. So we're gonna take a bit of creative license, as we sometimes do, and we're gonna create a kind of deity around the tree as a kind of sky god, because there's a poem from one of the old Anglo-Saxon rune poems, of which it's one of the most important Anglo-Saxon texts, and it says that because oak is actually one of the letters in the Anglo-Saxon runes, and it translates roughly as: oak is for the sons of men on earth, a feeder of flesh, often travels over gannets bath, the ocean tests whether the oak keeps good faith. It appears to suggest that it's like a gift to mankind. If I give these ideas to Ali, then she'll come up with something that inspires her around that story. So it's one of those where there's not a specific character with a name, but we're kind of creating something with the imagery that we have to work with, I guess. Okay, let's go. It's nice here. You see all up there?